he takes a small drink of one of these THC beverages and he can read 400 pages in his book, he says. So I think that the idea that our bodies are all different and there's a lot of different benefits that are going to come from these beverages.
Alcohol is the only drug that if you don't do, people think you have a problem.
I think a big part of it is that the marijuana industry doesn't want to legitimize the hemp industry. So the more that they publicly embrace it, like if every dispensary in town would just start carrying hemp-derived THC and realize that they could even ship those products to their customers' doorsteps without them having even come to the dispensary, it's like you're embracing the whole next level of business.
Welcome back to the NobleLore podcast. This episode is brought to you by NobleLore. Our business, what do? Well, we create podcasts for people. If you want to get on and represent your business or your personal brand, and you want to build trust on the internet, there's no better way to do that than long-form conversation and through podcasting. And so we come in and we manage it for you, we direct it, we edit it, and distribute it for you. But that's NobleLore. So without further ado, Josh Grigaitis, my uncle and the owner of Mighty Kind, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. So I guess, maybe just to start, I was talking about how this show is kind of centered around a few different things, but we're sitting in Pop's Blue Moon right now, best dive bar in St. Louis. I may be biased, but I would have to give it that crown. There was a time where Pop's was doing some like non-alcoholic Saturdays or things like this. Were you the driver for that?
Yeah, it was a pre-COVID thing, pre-pandemic, 2017. I personally took a break from alcohol for business reasons, personal, really to make new friends more than anything.
Oh, really?
And just my business was really revolved not only here, but my other businesses were all kind of revolved around alcohol sales, which as my boy got older, just didn't really feel like it was making me get up in the morning, and wasn't really excited about going to the kids' school and talking about my career on how much alcohol I sell to the world. So there's a lot of other things I was doing along the way, but that was part of what was making it possible, the revenue stream.
How was it impacting your life, or what was the benefits of giving it up?
Immediately started hanging around in different circles, looking for something else to do that just was separate from the alcohol atmosphere. Started bringing my own tea out when I went to a bar. That was interesting. Had to ask the door guy if it was okay if I brought my tea in, because I also don't have a sweet tooth, so trying to find something that wasn't alcohol or sugary was almost impossible. That's part of what inspired me to make the moves I did and start the business I did, but just so I could have an alternative to alcohol and sugar, and something that was just fun to drink outside of the water and the tea and the soda options that were there.
Did you notice that people were weirded out by the fact that you were bringing your own tea into the bar, or was it just
there's a certain stigma that goes, anytime you're doing something different than what everybody else is doing, there's going to be that, well, what's wrong with that person, or why, or what's special or whatever. What are they thinking? But I think that the thoughts I was having are not thoughts that only I'm having. It's just I was motivated enough to still be in that space, whether I was drinking alcohol or not. So I kind of stuck out, I think if anything, you tend to find people that are like-minded when you do things like that are like, hey, I wish I could bring my tea in here, or I wish they would serve tea here, or it just gets a conversation going that you're like, you're going into a place that serves beverages and their whole business is to serve beverages, and they don't have anything for you. So much that you're asking to bring your own drink in.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, wow, there's probably other people out there like that. When you're talking to the bartenders, you're talking to the owners, whatever, it's like, I want to spend money here. You just don't have anything for me. If you had a nice Earl Grey here, I'd be, throwing down a fair price for it. Totally. But instead, I'm going to get water, or I'm going to not drink anything here because there's nothing for me. So I think just living that lifestyle immediately motivated me to create solutions because there wasn't much to drink, and it was real obvious. And you just kind of you get feedback that agrees with you when you go and do things like that, and or you don't, I guess, but I did.
Yeah, right. That's yeah. I mean, I go to sometimes I go for late night work. I go to different bars around here, and I'm sober right now, so I'm just end up with like a Topo Chico or something. But I'm like, yeah, if I had a Cheers here or a CBD Mighty Kind or something like this, I mean, it'd be great. There's a place, 21C, that sells some Mighty Kind stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's a driver for me to actually go sit at the bar. I can feel comfortable here now, and actually just feel like I'm not, totally out of place. And as much as I try to pride myself on not caring what other people think, to some degree, it's always going to be there. And yeah, just having that, it's like it's part of the experience now.
It is. It's a conversation piece. It's a kind of an identity thing, where you're like, I'm ordering something that's doing something different for my body and for my mind. And I think that it provides the comfort zone of that at that time of purchase. It's like, hey, I'm doing this and I know why I'm doing it. And that person may ask me a question and I'll have something to say and it'll be a conversation, I think, I think it also just kind of goes back to people wanting to patronize when they're at a place, nothing wrong with getting a Topo Chico at all, but it's also kind of, it's low on the dollars, where you're like, sometimes you want to support a place. You want to be like, hey, I want to buy something nice. There's just nothing on the nice menu for me.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think the more that those options are there, the more we'll, continue to go out and support, and it'll get more people to go out to different places that they just don't feel real taken care of or thought of at.
Yes, that's so you went out and you started hanging around other people. How do you find, like, outside of that, the sphere of influence of alcohol? How did you go out and find a community, or how did you go out and find people? What was that? How did that change?
I mean, I think my mindset changed, and what I was looking for in my day changed. I wasn't really using that as a crutch. I think alcohol is a crutch for a lot of people, and even socially, it's like, well, I don't really talk, very well, or it's a social lubricant or whatever. It's like, it kind of loosens me up, and we could go on a tangent about that. But I think that providing other things to lean on is just has proven to be something that people are looking for. It's like me, I was having a Corona with a lime when I would go out, or a club soda, like a vodka club with a lemon or something. And I realized it was more about the fruit and supporting the bar, and it was cold and it had bubbles and like all these things, and alcohol was not even on the list at all. Literally, I would have chosen without it if those drinks would have been available. Like an NA Corona at the time wasn't a thing, and so I would have definitely gone that route, but it wasn't there. So I would just default to, just give me a Corona with a lime. It's got a lime in it at least, I think that, I think just providing those things, I may have gotten off track there on where that one was going.
No, that's okay. Within the past 8 years, would you say, like, this NA culture has kind of started to prop up? Like, when did the non-alcoholic culture start really coming into prevalent?
For me personally, it was 2017. So I don't, that's when I noticed it, and that's when I would say, but I don't want to, claim that it wasn't there before I was paying attention. But it seemed to be stronger in the UK at that time, and kind of just making its way over here. There had been a couple of years of dry Januaries, but not a whole lot.
Right.
It was, just in this last 10 years, dry January has gone from nobody knowing what it is to, numbers say like 80% of the population like knows someone who participates in dry January at this point. It's just massive. So I think that whole mindset change, that was what I was really feeling after being in the bar for almost 20 years, in the bar atmosphere and around live music events and festivals and all that stuff. Like there wasn't alternatives. It was just not a thing, even with the craft beer boom 40 years ago. It took until 2017 for a few brands to put out craft NA beers. The industry was booming for 35 years and not one single NA craft beer was put out. Neglected. They looked at the numbers. They're like, oh, it's not there. All the people that look at things from one angle are like, it's not there. But people that wanted it knew it was missing. There's just wasn't anybody being loud enough. The methods of making it weren't really developed because the demand wasn't there. The sales weren't demanding it. So the manufacturers weren't really rushing to it. But I think the need has been there a long time. And now that there's more options and more awareness, people are like being more vocal about it. It's like I think 10 years ago, there were, even dive bar like this, like if you don't drink alcohol, there's just not much there for you.
Club soda,
soda. And I think, or sugary sodas. The sales here now are over 30% non-alcoholic. And that is just amazing in such a short amount of time. For bars not to really even be embracing non-alcohol to it being 30% of a bar's sales, and that just the fact that that's a potential, if you focus on it and let your customers know that it's there and put some love into it, it's absolutely doable. And I think that percentage is just going to keep on growing. There's bars that are over 50.
That's amazing. That's crazy. To be over 50% on a bar is probably like a number you would have never thought could even possibly exist.
But I guarantee you either the owner or the bar managers are sober. And so it just changes their mindset. It's like it did with me in 2017. Like I did it personally and I was like, wait a second, there's so many more people out here that want this. And it did take me diving into it personally and, and knowing that it's there. And I just haven't turned back since because I know how big the demand is.
100%. Is it, so do you think it's purely awareness, or like what's the cultural shift going on here that's getting people to be like, yeah, this is health. This is a good thing to be pursuing.
I think it's a combination of the awareness of the consumers and the awareness of manufacturers, of the people creating products. I think I see it as both. It's hard to get consumers to embrace something before it exists. So there's this, you need to put it out there in order for consumers to embrace it. So I think it's on the responsibility of the manufacturers to make changes, but without the numbers, that's hard to do. It's hard to put investment out there when you don't know what's going to happen. So, I personally feel like I lived it and I know what's happening and I know what's coming. So our business is guided with that knowledge and experience. Yeah, I'm super excited, and I think this space is just going to continue to grow. It's not even close. I mean, there's so much.
If you had to put a percentage to it, where do you think it's at right now as far as?
There's just so much coming. I don't. All I can say is that when I see the projections by some of the most knowledgeable sources out there, they're projecting numbers like in 2029 and 2030 that I think are going to be here next year. I think it's way bigger than the numbers are even showing. And I'm in a space where not, the mainstream isn't quite as aware or tapped into, some of the trends that are happening, I guess. But I think overall, just the NA space is exploding, and then you add hemp on top of that, and mushrooms and other plants and plant magic in general. The whole functional beverage category it's going to change. People aren't going to think of it as alcohol and non-alcohol anymore. I feel like it's going to turn into a whole lot of different functions and feelings. So that's pretty exciting.
What? Yeah. Could you describe some of those? Like what?
I mean, from
What are some benefits of a mushroom kind of mix or a
I
CBD?
think you're going to see words like focus
Mhm.
and sleep and relief. You know, those are the big ones that everybody's looking for. Relief could be your mood, could be physical. There's, you know, anxiety relief. There's things that beverages are gonna, I think, it's such a convenient on the go, pre-measured, formulated. It's trustworthy. I know we can all go home and make our own concoctions, you know, but the idea of grabbing the can that you need that day for or that hour for whatever it is, like I'm gonna go study, I need this, you know, or I'm gonna, you know, I need some energy, I need some focus, I need to relax. You know, I think there's I often tell a story about my Uncle Ed, which may have talked to you about before, but you know, he takes a small drink of one of these THC beverages and he can read 400 pages in his book, he says. So I think that the idea that our bodies are all different and there's a lot of different benefits that are going to come from these beverages. One person may just be in a good mood. Next person, it allows them to focus and read. The very next person might help them sleep and take a nap. And you're talking about the same drink for everybody. So there's a lot to learn, a lot for consumers to figure out and get educated about different functional, you know, ingredients, adaptogens, nootropics, all the fun stuff.
Yeah. If you were talking to, because like when I attended the bar here for a couple of weeks, as or Pop says, like 2 days, but I would definitely come across people who are, you know, they're like, oh, is this, you know, THC? What does THC do? What does CBD do? And they'd be hesitant at first because they don't want to get high as hell for a second, or they don't, you know, or they want to get high, you know, they want something to come from it. So if you're talking to like an elderly person that's walking up to you and saying, you've got this brand, Mighty Kind, what am I getting with each one of these drinks? I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of education to be done. I mean, I think people doing their own research is always recommended. I think there's a lot of different feelings that come from most things we do in life. I mean, if we're talking about alcohol, I think somebody could have a couple drinks and be relaxed and go to bed. Another person has their second drink and they're out there on the dance floor,
right?
Because that's what it does for them, you know. Or I think it's just a very much, you know, caffeine or sugar or whatever affects us all so differently, and some people are, you know, aware even of the way that those things affect themselves and others aren't. And I think, you know, a lot of people are looking for different things. So I'd say in that space, it's approach things lightly, start off small and learn yourself and find brands that you're trusting, because trying to bounce around to different brands thinking that the ingredients are similar is a very challenging task. I think that it's, you know, if you're eating a steak, you probably are better off, you know, sticking with a farmer or a butcher, you know, a brand that you like the steak, versus just thinking, oh, I'm going to get a T-bone and bounce around from one
Walmart
farm to the other. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not all T-bones are the same.
Yeah.
So it's very similar though. And with CBD and with, you know, THC products, and I think with all of functional beverages, there's going to be a lot of different formulations, a lot of different you know, levels of quality out there. You know, price isn't always going to, you know, determine quality and that kind of thing. So I think I would just always suggest people research brands and find brands that they like, and maybe try products within the brand. You know, once you have someone that you believe in the consistency and the customer service and that kind of thing. So that's my best advice on trying to figure out all the different potential feels and relief and, you know, uses for these products. But yeah.
That's when you, especially when you're mentioning, it's funny that I think about just how valuable things like these are because of, you think about alcohol, and I have a question for you after this, but alcohol doesn't help you. It might help you get to sleep, but it doesn't help you stay asleep. It hinders you from getting full REM sleep, and you can go into find the scientists that you like that can tell you all this information, but it actually it's there's so many net negatives to it, I feel like, and like I really see very few positives. One being, it makes you happy and enjoy for some people, but that what I like about these is it's starting to help take that stigma away from being sober or being sober from alcohol, for instance, because it's the idea of alcohol is the only drug that if you don't do, people think you have a problem, right? And so you bring these things in, and it's just like a totally different ball game. Do you think that? And I think a lot of that is because of just the information that's coming out. Do you think that the social media and the internet is a net negative or a net positive? Because I think this is our debated topic, and a lot of people would say it's a net negative.
To make sure I understand the question, a negative for
are the outcomes of culture and individuals worse because of social media, because of Instagram and Facebook and all these things, or net positive in the sense that are the outcomes of culture and individuals better?
That is a good question. I'd like to think that it's positive, but I also very quickly would feel that I would probably be on the same path either way, because my experience is very real life for the path that I've been on for this. And I'm not sure if it's answering the question or where that was going, but I think the education overall is good. The accessibility is good. This moment right now is probably making me question that information more than ever. I think it's been a good run. How about that? I think where it's going is questionable. I do think that the last couple decades of mass information overall, I would say, is a positive thing for the world.
Yeah. We're in like the teen years of figuring out social media. We hardly even know how to use it yet.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And well, there's other things are crossing over with that. I think that are going to make it more challenging for social media to be a positive force. I think that maybe it's kind of like you're saying, we're in our teen years of it. It's possible that our most important years have already passed.
Oh yeah.
I would say just think about how much a kid learns in those first 10 years or the preteens, how much you're absorbing, how much you're, what happens after that. I don't know. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little dark for me. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the highlight of social media already.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. That's an
I'm not sure that there's it to me, and I'm a little bit older than you. I feel like I was kind of like that last generation that knows what it's like to live before it. I didn't get my first phone until I was 21, which was also in the year 1999 back in the 20th century.
I was born. Yeah, that's when I was born.
So but that was 21. I was late. My kid got his phone 8 years before I did in his life, beginning of teen.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I appreciate those things. I mean, I'm old enough to be before bottled water too. So there's there's different things that I guess I feel like I experienced that I have some appreciation for that I don't think are as possible anymore. But I do have a hard time seeing the future of social media. It seems hard to be able to have the kind of trust in it that we had as it was a growing thing, where now I think it's maturing and will naturally become more controlled and manipulated and
regulated. That's
censored, regulated, whatever. Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, because in this whole world, I mean, now just the general public is seeing all of these different legislation and lawsuits, and we're just all so much more aware of it. Recently, there was I don't know what there was something that basically was banning hemp, or what was it?
The governor tried to ban intoxicating hemp products. He held up packages of gummy bears and said these aren't safe for the kids. But along with that, our drinks kind of got
gotcha. They were hit with the
brought in. We got the embargo.
Okay. Yeah.
So we had our products embargoed at a liquor store.
What is embargoed? What does embargoed mean?
That means that the government puts a health alert out on the product. They require that the product not be touched while they are figuring out if the product is healthy or not, or is a health risk to the community. That only lasted like a week or so, and the Secretary of State denied the ban that the governor had proposed. And
was that due to lobbyists, or was that due to like just a principled?
As far as
how did they decide? How are they deciding we should ban this or we should?
Well, an executive order of any kind has a certain requirements that it has to check off in order for a governor to be able to do something that's not through legislation. Well, this particular topic, he had tried multiple times to go through legislation and it wasn't working. So this was the next effort, but it's often, it's right away an issue. If you can't pass something through legislation, then is it really important enough that you would have to make an executive order? And so the Secretary of State quickly said, this does not meet the qualifications of an executive order. I can't honor this. So it was denied. And the Department of Health and Senior Services, who is the organization or entity that has been given the right or the power to regulate marijuana in Missouri, they were convinced by the governor that they should go out and embargo products and and ban, go into businesses, confiscate products, tell them they can't sell things. And that lasted like a week or two. And then there was a lawsuit that was brought against them for doing so without the rights. And 15 minutes before the court case, they backed off and said, we won't do this anymore, so that the court case wouldn't have to be heard.
Oh, wow.
They literally put out a letter to the public 15 minutes before the court that said, we will not do any of these things that we're getting sued for, and backed off of the whole thing.
So what was going through your brain during that week and through your businesses? They had to be in chaos.
And even then, all that stuff happens, but nobody really knows about it. It's all on the back end. It's like all underground, it's all in paperwork, posted on a website that nobody really knows is there. Yeah. And you have to go and find it and then share it with everyone and make sure they all know it's not fake and that it's legal. Like the scare tactics are more what this is all about. The governor and the marijuana industry knew that if this press release goes up, no matter what the response is a week or two later or 3 weeks later, or no matter what the ban is on it, all that, it's still going to be heard. It's still going to create concern and question in a certain amount of our businesses. I mean, we have accounts that never ordered again and still don't, even though we've told them, whether it's email or visit them or whatever, text them, call them, like, well, is it legal or isn't it? It creates this doubt. So, and they knew that was kind of one of those, like, nothing else is working. Yeah. We're going to just, even if it cuts their sales down by 30% in the next year, that's hopefully more sales we'll get at the dispensary for people not buying their products from the liquor store.
So this is dispensaries that were
Lobbying for
this.
They're lobbying against our industry completely.
What are the difference between your two? Just describe those two industries. They're against the
marijuana industry wants all marijuana and any intoxicating products from cannabis, which includes hemp. The marijuana industry wants those all to be required to be bought at dispensaries.
Gotcha.
Through them.
Gotcha.
Conveniently for them.
Very, very conveniently. Yeah.
They don't want it at the liquor stores. They don't want it at the bars. They don't want it where we need to have these products in order for them to even be, what they are. I mean, it's an alternative to alcohol. How can you have an alternative to alcohol and not be selling it where the alcohol is sold?
Places? Yeah, right.
It just doesn't. It doesn't really make sense. There's a decline that no one can argue for alcohol sales globally, and those businesses, the trucks, the manufacturers, the retailers, the bars, the liquor stores, everybody's needing to supplement or looking to supplement that lost income with a new revenue generator, and this is it. It's an answer to declining intoxicating beverage sales with a new intoxicating beverage of a whole new market, a whole new industry. So it fits perfectly. The trucks and the retailers, they're already carding people. It's already been for 100 years since Prohibition. We've been, figuring out how to regulate intoxicating beverages. So the alcohol industry is like, this makes sense for us. We know how to do this. Of course, the marijuana industry is like, well, it has THC in it, so we should get that. And if you look at the beverage space in the marijuana world, it's gone nowhere in decades. And
it's gone nowhere in decades.
It hasn't grown as beverages. That space hasn't grown for good reason. It's not in the right place for it to grow. It's just not. People are not wanting to go get their 4-pack of, sparkling waters or sodas at a dispensary. It's just not. I've personally never been in a dispensary in Missouri to shop. I've been in the back for a delivery or something, but I've never been in one to shop, and it's just not where I want to go. I want to go to the neighborhood store or to the neighborhood bar or to, a small independently owned bottle shop or something. I don't want to go to a place that's going to, give money to the millionaires that own the marijuana industry. So it's not accessible for the everyday person at all.
Right. I think of game theory and I'm like, well, why? I mean, they know that eventually this will be sold outside of dispensaries. You would think that logically there's no way you can lock that into dispensaries.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's case law or whatever it is from the alcohol after the Prohibition of I imagine there were distilleries that were like, you can only buy alcohol from a distillery or whatever it is.
I think there's always going to be people trying to hold on to their industry. Certain kind of whiskey can only be made in Tennessee.
Right.
It's just, whatever it is, champagne in France or whatever. I think that those,
corn has to be
those kind of things. I mean, there's certain scotches and certain things that have to be from certain places and all that is, I respect it. But I think there's also a lot of evolution happening in the space. And I think that some of the biggest marijuana brands in the country that I'm aware of are moving into the hemp space. It's like, why would you only ship products within your own state when you could ship nationwide? I think a big part of it is that the marijuana industry doesn't want to legitimize the hemp industry.
Okay.
So the more that they publicly embrace it, like if every dispensary in town would just start carrying hemp-derived THC and realize that they could even ship those products to their customers' doorsteps without them having even come to the dispensary, it's like you're embracing the whole next level of business. And I understand it's hard to switch gears when they've invested their money in this hopes of this one way of doing things. But I think we're seeing more and more in the world that those are not very safe investments to make.
Yeah, that's
when
right. That's right.
Investing in one way or investing in trying to be the only way. I mean, it's it's not to say you can't own an idea and profit off of it or whatever, but there seems to be a lot of surprises around every corner these days.
There was so for like the Mighty Kind products that you have hemp derived, that let's say THC 5 milligrams, for instance, can you get that shipped? Like if I was a customer, I could just go online. Where would I go to?
Yeah, our website is bemightykind.com. You can order just about anywhere in the country.
Anywhere in the country, you can get one of these to your door.
Delivered to your doorstep.
Yeah.
THC by the UPS or USPS. Yeah. And they know what they're delivering, and they're happy. They're in the package business.
Yep.
So these products are federally legal. We're shipping it through the federal mail. That's all they need for it to be okay. They're in the business to ship more packages. So for them, they love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's what I hope that comes from this, of like giving, I'll obviously put links and stuff in, but giving people that I already know are interested in these just access, like, boom, here's the link. Now you can start getting those shipments to you on a weekly basis or bi-weekly, whatever your cadence is.
Yeah, my two sisters and my mom run the online fulfillment.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Family biz,
customer service is on point.
and so as far as the hemp, we've talked about this in nauseum many times, but new podcast. So
yeah,
hemp derived is different than marijuana. The marijuana, how, in what ways, or what are
I mean, really, they're both cannabis. Hemp and marijuana were more or less created as categories so the government could regulate it. So it could figure out how to regulate the plant, because the cannabis plant was obviously pretty valuable and pretty exciting. And there's this THC molecule that's really,
really dope,
really great in many different ways. And so how are we going to regulate this and make money off of it? And their plan was to separate hemp from marijuana by the threshold of 0.3% THC by weight. If it goes over that 0.3% THC, which is just a small trace amount, if it goes over that, it's considered marijuana, and it's highly regulated. You have to have license to, work with it, transport it, manufacture it, purchase it, all the things. If it's less than 0.3% THC, it's considered hemp, which as of 2018 in the Farm Bill was made legal for everyone to use, to manufacture. What was the Farm Bill? The Farm Bill made hemp legal. So before that, even though there was 0.3% less and there was marijuana and hemp, both of them were still not accessible to companies to do R&D, to create products. For me to make a sparkling water, I would have had to have the equivalent of a marijuana license pretty much. There was no permits or licenses to order CBD, to work with it in any way. Later on that year, the USDA, which was a very key moment, because legalizing it only does so much good if you can't cross state lines, right? Because now you're right back to where marijuana is and alcohol, like you're bootlegging CBD just to cross a state, So it's like, go to Colorado where it's made, but to get something in Missouri, you either have to make the plant, grow the plant in Missouri and do everything and sell it to people in Missouri, which is super restricted. And so USDA realized that the Farm Bill and the hemp industry lobbied for this pretty quietly, is the way I understand. So it wasn't so loud, but USDA was like, okay, sure. Yeah, you can, of course. I mean, if we're going to make it legal, you got to be able to cross the state lines. Well, the moment that happened, it pretty much made it near impossible to enforce marijuana laws of crossing state lines, because they look exactly the same.
Gotcha.
They smell the same. They both have the same ingredients, even if it's different levels. So it becomes this, like, how do you even stop it? You have a truck that's crossing the state lines and it's got 1,000 pounds of hemp in it. Do you stop it and risk getting sued for illegal search and ruining the business? And hey, we missed this and you did all this, and it kind of left the law enforcement without any way to fight it. also opened up the loophole of the fact that the mail is federal, and this is a federally legal ingredient now, or it allowed the transport of it, which more or less has challenged the marijuana industry incredibly to keep their products from crossing state lines as well. So it opened up a problem, absolutely, a very big loophole. And I think as soon as the government figures out how to make money off of it, they'll sew that loophole up a little bit, or make sure that it's benefiting them in whatever way whatever way possible.
So how do you prepare for something like that when that inevitably comes?
Well, I think
in your business.
I think that's why our industry is kind of, we're in a place between the marijuana industry and the alcohol industry, because alcohol is going to make money off of us.
How so?
And they know, because of the trucks and the need for this product to be in the bars and the liquor stores and the places that the alcohol industry knows how to work with, knows how to distribute to. They have all those resources. They're all built and ready to go and need revenue right now. So they're trying to stay in business, and this is a new revenue stream. And then you have the marijuana industry that's kind of like just trying to grow and build, and it's new money. It's not necessarily trying to stay in business. It's trying to like invest into business and get new business going. And I feel like old business is going to win this one. I feel like this is going to go towards the alcohol industry, the 3-tier distribution system, where you have to work with a distributor to get your products instead of maybe going straight to the manufacturer.
Why is that? Why do you have to do it that way?
It just creates a little more regulation, a little more. The idea is that you're curating things and you're making sure that the sources are approved and quality. I mean, if we all know that isn't always the way it goes, but it's kind of like being certified organic. It might get you into a distribution channel where you wouldn't have got into before, because you paid this money to prove that you had this seal on this product, and now you're certified, and it just gives the next people down the line something to lean on, even if it's plausible deniability.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, well, there's a seal on there. I just assumed it was safe, kind of a thing. I think I'm not a fan of all those kind of things, but I am a fan of regulation. Of regulation that isn't
overbearing.
Yeah, I don't want over regulation, but some regulation provides peace of mind and provides structure. I think just getting everybody. If Missouri were to say, hey, the hemp industry now requires a $100 license to sell hemp, well, now there would be 1,000 businesses all on a list that would be usable by public domain on a public list that says, hey, all these places are selling hemp. Well, if you're a hemp manufacturer, hemp brand, that's pretty easy access to go hit up 1,000 people and see if they want to. It helps to grow the business that way. It's more transparent. So I'm all for a certain amount of regulation, just not over.
Gotcha. The last time that you and I had spoke on a podcast, I was just getting into running a podcast and trying to start something. And then now I'm a little over a year into business. And so we were actually talking at Festival of Nations, where I was pretty high during that. But I remember just being like, okay, I really like the way that your mind works around how you go about, with the creative side of things, with the way that you approach business. So like what goes in, how do you approach business differently, would you say, than the standard definition of how to do it?
Well, it starts with, I feel like it starts with me wanting to get up in the morning. you got to have something to look forward to. Got to keep that fire lit. And for me, going into these conversations, I constantly am asked, like, well, how do you differentiate yourself from all the other people doing what you do? And for me, it's always been that passion of doing what feels right. And, you know, if it's given me that energy and it gives somebody else that energy when I share it with them, you know, for me, I'm not money driven, and I never have been. You know, need to have things be sustainable, of course, but it's not my driving force. My driving force is like what energizes me and what also energizes others when I'm doing that. And I just go with that and I stick with that and I figure out a way to make money doing that.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Because you know, when it's gamified to some degree. It's not just numbers per se, but like the way that you approach. Because ultimately, any business is, I provide value in this way, and the market returns that with dollars, right? And so it's like when you think about the value that you're providing, or you know, the creative ways that you try to present this to people, how do you go and present these to a business and say, hey, look, this is how it's going to.
Yeah, I have a very authentic story that this was created right here in this bar out of a need for, you know, alternatives and a need to feel good about what I was serving people and what I was drinking and just on both sides of it. I've always been passionate about design, you know, from designing concert posters. You know, you have this chance when people walk past a poster like on the street in a window to either appeal to them or catch their attention or not. And to me, that's this awesome game. That's a part of the game, you know, where it's like now people are looking in this big wall of cans that, you know, something has to appeal to them somehow. There has to be something that says, that's the one for me. That's the one that I might enjoy. I might like the flavor. I might like the feel. I might like the story behind the brand. I mean, something, you know, all that stuff is, to me, what it's all about. That's the importance. So, I mean, I feel like I've been someone in this space who has figured that out for myself and for this brand to say, here's our look and here's our feel and here's the different ways we're trying to touch the consumers or the retailers or the distributors that are constantly kind of asking the question of why should I drink your product or pay money for this versus somebody else's. It's just telling that story. It's what are you passionate about? Where are your core values as a brand, and do they relate with the customers and the retailers and the distributors? And one thing for me that we've done is we've been very proactive in making special labels and doing artist series and collaborations with different entities, like licensing agreements where, you know, you talk to somebody and they're a fan of the drink and you're like, well, you know, you could have your own label, or we could get your artwork on a label. It like lights. They're like, what? No way. You know, and for me, that's like it. I'm sold. I'm like going down to make it happen. You know what I mean? Because it's like you just lit that person up and you have them dreaming about something, you know? And it's like, if I can do that and we can benefit by reaching out to the community and the artists and the you know, we have a good product. We need the voice. And our voice is only so strong. And to reach out to other artists and other people that you're literally lighting them up and energizing them up with the idea that they could be a part of what you're doing, that's the voice. And when that voice speaks, like, people listen and people hear it and they believe it and it's authentic. I mean, we could go out and spend money or give some big popular person a percentage of our company or something and be like, oh yeah, you know, we're hip. That's, you know, look, that person says we're cool. But like, the authentic relationships and endorsements, I think, are, you know, way more valuable. And that's just how I've built the company and chose the partnerships, chose the employees, all of the above.
Feels like a bottom up approach as opposed to a top down.
It really is. Like, I mean, when I meet people, or even over the 20 years of the bar and loyal family business and other things, I constantly am interviewing people. And it's like, well, what do you want to do? What gets you up in the morning? Like, what's your passion? And let's see if we can apply that to this in a way, versus like, okay, I need this job and here's what I need somebody to do. Not saying that doesn't work too, and it probably has its complications to ask everybody what they want to do when they come in for an interview. I probably have to do more interviews to find the right person for the job, but I hopefully am also helping those people that, we don't end up working together, just to think differently about how they're going after their career or their approach. They're like, well, that one guy did that interview and he just wanted to know what I was passionate about. The next three didn't care. They just want to know where I went to school and what I studied. But that one guy, he asked me what I was passionate about. And which guy do you want to work for?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on your personality type. Of maybe you are just a logical thinker. And so, yes. So
I also learned, I went to school for business, sales, marketing, accounting, econ, switched to sociology, American social problems, marriage and the family, race and ethnicity, all the classes that were like, oh, these are actually what are going to keep me interested, get me up in the morning, make me study. I was losing my interest in all the numbers and all the, whatever. It's like, I need something real that I can attach to. My parents were going through a divorce after 20 years. I was like a chapter ahead in marriage and the family.
Right.
I was literally answering every question, like talking to the teacher, like, so this next chat, she's like, John, can we wait till next week to talk about that?
4 chapters.
The class isn't even there yet. I'm like, yeah, but I need to know what's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
I got things going on,
Right.
But I left that saying, you know what? If I ever have a business and it comes down to hiring a sociology major or a business major for a sales job, I'm going with the sociology major.
100%.
I'm going to go with somebody who knows why somebody's making the sale that they're doing. Why are they paying the price? Why does that advertising work with them? All those things to me, it's just, I guess that's more where my mindset is on that side.
No
of
doubt
things.
about it. I'm totally with you on that. Totally with you. So what's the narrative that you would say your employees understand Mighty Kind to be? Like, what's the story that they understand about it, and why are they passionately working for you?
I mean, I think it's a family where everybody's working together, and I want people to be happy. I'm not just trying to fill roles and get the numbers to add up. There's more to it. And I think that's pretty obvious with me and the meetings and the way I approach things and talk about things and the decisions and the mission for the company and I think all that stuff is pretty clear. And so I think that you naturally attract what you put out there, and hopefully that's, as long as I'm communicating, then we should all be on the same page.
Yeah, that's right. That's I like your approaches there. And ultimately it comes down to what's the story that people are telling themselves, and what's the story that they understand they're participating in. That's why I'm so jazzed up about podcasts. It's like this is where we can communicate that story and really make something beautiful happen. But cool. So what is something, and this is kind of what I ask at the end of each episode, is what is something important for young people to be paying attention to right now?
I would say, what I tried to teach, I think the young high school kids at Sumner High School last year, when we were creating a flavor and teaching them to design their own label and, get a product, like create a product themselves that's tangible, that can create money, can create funds for other things that they want to. I think since around the pandemic, for some reason, that, as far as me, that timing made it really clear that there was a need for people to be focusing on those passions and on their crafts and on like what really makes them happy and their circle around them, and how can they serve their community. I feel like that stuff's going to become more and more important. I think it's important to be connected to what is really needed in your immediate life, or in your bubble. I think a lot of times people think, I kind of feel like when I was going to school, it was like, how do you get to this big thing, and it's like off in the distance, or in another state, or my career is going to take me here, or I'm going to go there, all this kind of thing. And for me, I think it's more important than ever to like focus on the small circles that are real, that are around you, that are real, the experiences that are as awesome as this podcast is. The next best thing is really being there, and having those conversations with people. And I guess just don't forget about the real part, the IRL.
IRL. Don't be AFK.
I mean, what does that mean?
Away from keyboard.
Ooh,
or we
nice.
want people. We want people AFK. Get away from the keyboard.
Okay, more AFK.
AFK and IRL.
I discussed that for me. There's that community word. It's important to not lose focus of it.
Great.
And I think as much as it may be the argument from the beginning of like, is this a plus or minus of the internet, for example? Is it positive or negative? I think the whole idea of it can be positive, but you have to have the balance of real interaction and community
That's right.
to be able to really even know what to do with that social media thing.
Use it as a supplemental almost. Yeah.
Yeah. It can't be the only attachment to your community is this virtual thing. I just think real life, real events, shake hands, look at people in the eyes as much as possible.
That's right. I've found that like even when if I have like a slight disagreement with someone over text, like I cut it off almost immediately, because I'm like, I can't read your facial expressions.
Mm-hmm.
I can't hear, see exactly what are you taking seriously here and what are you not, what's really affecting you. How can I make sure that I don't do that or communicate in a better way? It's like what is it? 80% of communication is nonverbal.
And hearing you say that makes me realize, a text I recently said probably didn't need to be sent. Probably should have had that in person. You realize that often, but
totally,
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no end to that truth there.
Yeah. Well, cool. We're in Pop's Blue Moon right now. You want to talk about getting in person and finding the right community. This bar is just magical. Might be I don't want to go too far in saying it's magical, but I would go that far. Like I just never feel more comfortable in a public space than when I'm here. And it's just really obviously has some great Mighty Kind NA options, THC options.
Yeah, we have a lot of plans to keep evolving the space into the future. And I feel like the Booze Free Saturday nights will just be one of many things we've done over the years to keep increasing the comfort zone here. And I would like to kind of move forward our coffee and tea and some of our selections to just kind of bring more balance to that space, that atmosphere that everybody's looking for.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, Josh, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.